What's going on, Tamers? It's your boy Varney, and today we've got a very special episode for you. Not only are my boys Mike and Dan in the studio with me, but we've got the infamous Hoang Zero. Hoang, what's going on?
First of all,
the man, the legend.
Word. Infamous is a strong word. All right, look, the legend himself, famous, the idol. Any of those, infamous. Come on, man. But
the Hoang Zero.
Well, it's funny because Hoang Zero is actually a two-man team. It started,
I know. I figured that out in the last 3 months or so.
So we can go into all that detail later on. But it's really great to be here. Thank you guys so much for having me on here. I know you guys have been interacting with a lot of my stuff for the last, I think, almost 3 years now. So
yeah, for sure.
This is the very least I could do to repay.
I appreciate it. So I'll say I got into the game 2021, and my first content creator was True Champ. Binged the hell out of his content, and from there it was you, because you did a deck profile on Sierra Mist Megazoo. And I was like, this is amazing. I am sold. And ever since I'm not gonna it's gonna sound some type of way, but you shaped the player that I was in this TCG, no lie. Because ever since then, all I've played was Megazoo, and I went to SecCon a little bit. I don't care for
not literally. You don't lie. You talking about?
A lot, but I really don't care for the current iteration of it. But Megazoo, SecCon, and everything with that play style is where I've been.
Yeah.
So big shout out to you for guiding young fledgling Varney on his Digimon journey.
It's really funny you bring up Sierra Mist, because I think hyping up Sierra Mist is probably one of my biggest regrets. I'm not gonna lie. And I say that because so in Japan, green, blue, yellow, whatever the fuck it was, Megazoo, it was doing really well. It was actually getting results. It was doing fantastic in Japan. So I was and I tested into it. I was like, oh, this deck is pretty good. Comes to America and the deck tanks. It blows up and it just does absolutely horrendous. And I'm like, oh shit! I feel like I just gaslit everyone. That's crazy.
You lied to everybody. How dare you?
In my defense,
we're on our locals.
In my defense, it did really well in Japan. So I was like, dude, they got this shit on lock. And then it blew up in my fucking face. So here we are. And I still, to this day, I get people man, fuck you, Hoang. You told me Sierra Mist was the gas. And I was like, I'm so sorry, dude.
Nah, bro, that deck was it was fun. I enjoyed it a lot.
That was Lord Knight.
Nice.
That was Lord Knight era, and I hated Lord Knight with a passion.
It was actually before Lord Knight era.
Was it?
Yeah. Sierra, because it was BT4. So this was Yellow War Greymon, Hercules Kabuterimon era. Which if
Yellow War Grey.
BT4 sidebar is if not, it is the best format in the game. I'm not gonna lie. It's BT4 with War Greymon, Hercules Kabuterimon was arguably, in my opinion, the best format that we've had in the game. If not that, BT5 is really high up there for me personally.
I was about to say BT5 myself.
I love Lord Knight. I've played so much Lord Knight. I've jammed at least 500 games of Lord Knight into it. And that was before it came out in English, by the way, because I used to play consistently for tournaments and stuff like that in Japan. But yeah, those are the two goated eras, man. I miss those times.
That's going to be a great topic for later on then.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so the first thing we always talk about, locals. I was not there. So, Dan, locals.
Yeah, Mike was not there either. So
I literally just moved into a new place. You can't even.
Yeah. Man always got an excuse for why he never wants to show up. Jesus Christ. No, let me stop. But it was a small locals. I had 3 rounds. I won it with Black or Greymon. I went back to my roots. I haven't played. I rebuilt it. I think it was last week. I said Varney. I think it was.
I didn't know you.
I think I played it last week. No, I never took it apart.
You played it. You played it.
I just played it again. You know what I'm saying? I knocked the dust off of it. But I played against Cross. Won that 2-1. Superior was a Cross superior mode where his name is the big guy that can just bounce anything.
Strip your source.
It's very detrimental at times, but there's an out to it. His name is BT8 Mellow Greymon because you just Digivolve and it immediately goes to Shaomon.
And you pop
every
it.
single source goes by.
Yeah.
You know? So that ended up being like my comeback, especially in game 3. It was a pretty cool little comeback. He did that, put me at 3. I had nothing. Played at Agumon, had 2 ties on board. DigiPod, so Greymon. So it was a free Evo. Went to Grey X, the BT11 one. Put an X anybody underneath, then went to BT8 Metal Greymon. And then it was GG after that. Next I played... Yeah, I don't even remember, honestly.
You know what I will
Round
say?
3, I played the mirror. Well, War Greymon. It was War Greymon. And 2-0'd him. Blew up his ties, and he couldn't respond as well. And then I don't remember what I played. Yeah, I don't remember. I must have 2-0'd him too.
I mean, you won, so
yeah.
You know, you won.
You just 2 ones I remember more.
I was gonna say, the one thing I dislike about some Black or Gray lists nowadays is that they feel like they can completely forego BT8 Metal Gray. And I just personally don't think that's the right move. Like, I feel like that's at least like a 1 or a 2 of. Just because
and I get
for
why.
some of your matches, it just feels like it's the only out.
So a little chime in here. I don't know if you guys know him, Brian Q. He is a player who has consistently topped the Black War Greymon. I think he has gotten 3 invites this season with Black War Greymon, actually. And he plays a very interesting build of Black War Greymon. And like, I've never seen anyone else do this. I didn't even think this card like saw play outside of like the deck it's supposed to be in. But he plays Alter B Black War Greymon, actually. So with the Zwart defeat, Alter B, and
yes, that's my favorite one.
He caught me with my pants down at Fort Worth because first of all he went into defeat, and I was like, what? Like, no, he went to Alter B first. Digivolved me by 3, popped my shit, and I was like, oh, what the hell just happened? And then he Alter Beat on top of the Alter B, burned me for 2, and then like beat my ass for Gam, and I was like, oh, like okay, it's like that. I ended up winning the set, thankfully, just because, you know, Machine Dramon bullshit. But that was one of probably the coolest way I've seen the deck built. As far as BT8 Metal Greymon goes, I think the issue with it is the format in of itself right now is there's not a lot of small bodies per se. There's not a lot of like smaller bodies that are being spawned as heavily, so you're getting less incentive with that pop, because like cross art's not that super popular right now, right? It's not, let's be honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
And the ability to swing into stacks isn't super valuable either, because we're not having decks that are like build super tall like Black or Greymon anymore. Like there's no more Black or Greymon mirrors, right? As much at least. Particularly, we're playing into like Shine Greymon, and like BT8 Metal Greymon doesn't do very much into Shine, because what the fuck are you gonna like? I'm not gonna swing into a Marcus, dude. Like what? But I just feel like in general, I feel like the meta is not super great for BT8 Metal Greymon per se right now. But I do think it does get better as time goes on, especially as we're moving towards Nationals format with EX5, because then you do have a lot of those smaller bodies. Like, for example, with Anubismon spawning so many bodies out, assuming they're not just spawning level 4 and then you're swinging into bodies, like, you have more incentive there. But I think for BT13 specifically, right, that's where we are. Yeah, we're at BT13. I just don't think there's a lot of incentive for BT8 Metal Greymon per se. I think it's a 1 or 2 up.
Also,
it's like, you can rock with it, but I think 0 is fine.
I think also the issue is that now, because the game has gotten so much faster when it comes to evoing, you're forced to do a 4-cost evo, unless you get the 1 of BT11, you know, Greymon X. We don't have the training boost yet, so like it feels bad having to always go for 4 unless you have the ties on board. But even still, you don't get no reduction anyways, really, outside, you know, at that moment. So like, even if you have a, you know, memory tamer, you're passing turn if you don't have a tie, the other tie, I should say.
Right.
So like, it also feels bad too.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I don't know. I'm just personally the kind of player where I'm like, good card is good card, baby. I don't know if I can go without good card. I mean, even Dan yells at me. I like playing this Zwart defeat Ultra B version. He's like, why would you play that? I'm like, cuz.
Well, I mean, okay, well,
since when you don't even touch Greymon. I don't understand why you be saying these random shit like this.
All I'm saying is the Zwart defeat Alter B version is like 90-10 into Shine. Like you demolish Shine. Like it's not even.
Oh yeah, because you're guaranteed popping Marcuses and stuff.
You're popping Marcus left and right.
Nothing lives.
Yeah.
You go Black or Greymon, pop a Marcus. Zwart defeat, another pop. Like, you know,
it's too good. It's too good.
Swinging a security hit Marcus. Okay, well, I'll just.
It's gone. All right.
Hades Force.
Oh my goodness, yeah, Hades Force. All right. Well, since Dan was the only one who went to locals this week, we can move on very quickly from the locals section of pod. So moving on very quickly to our Q&A and poll results. So our last episode, Hoang, we did we talked about open nationals and floodgates. So those were the questions that I asked. So the first one, this was our Q&A. I had asked, what are your thoughts on open nationals? Jeremy said, I don't know how to feel for sure. This feels like last second after they realized they weren't going to have half the numbers as last year. I hope they either make it to top 32, get invites or something. Walker said, it makes a lot of sense. However, the way they handle it in not telling everyone straight up that it would be open and instead of holding invites at regionals to get people to pay in is lame. And Setki said, I think open nationals is pretty cool. I think they should have started the season with it, you know? I'm pretty sure they just didn't because they knew the pricing was crummy. So we talked about it extensively last pod, but I would love to get your take on open nationals.
Okay. For sure. So first and foremost, you know, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I definitely do think Bandai handled the situation poorly. They definitely 100% should have announced it from the get-go if you're going to do this. Like, I get you know, if the whole idea is like, oh, we don't have enough people for nationals, then like let's make it open nats. But like, I feel like that's so weird. That's so awkward to do it like so close to the end of the season, you know? Because then this kind of pulls into like from a competitive aspect, right? There are people that, you know, play event after event after event trying to get their invite. You know, they're busting their ass off. They're investing all this time and energy, you know, traveling around the states and whatnot, trying to get their invite because this is a prestigious event. This is something that like I want to play at nationals, right? I'm working my ass off for that. And then, you know, let's say it took me like 4 or 5 events to get my invite. I finally got my invite. I'm super happy. Nationals is now open. It's open to everyone, right? And so from a competitive standpoint, I'm a little bummed out, not gonna lie, because I worked hard for this, right? If I knew it was gonna be open invite, I probably wouldn't have worked nearly as hard as I did. When I was trying to go for my invite, the first event I did, I put in like, I'd say like maybe 3 or 4 weeks of practice into it, and then I came into 19th place, right? Like I bubbled out X2, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm kind of like
that 19 feels real familiar.
Yeah, it feels bad. So I was like, man, this sucks. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna sweat the next event, and I spent like the next 2 months practicing at least, you know, like at least 3 days out of the week, you know, consistently for the 2 months. And we got second place, right? I'm like, yeah, dude, like let's go. My hard work paid off, and then lo and behold, oh, you know, fucking need open invite. And like it's cool we got a buy. Like I'm glad there's some kind of compensation. But at the end of the day, as a competitor, it does kind of suck a little bit. I'm just glad they gave us some kind of compensation, I guess. But from a perspective of like, I'm just trying to hang out with my homies, I'm glad because now I get to hang out with my homies. Like some of my homies were, oh, I can't get my invite, I'm too busy, or man, I keep scrubbing out, so I have no reason to go to nationals. Well, now you do. There's no excuse. Come party, like let's go. You know, like
yeah, for sure.
It's a social event. You know.
That was the cool thing about last year's Nats. So like, yeah, it was like, you know, obviously Nats is happening, but like there was so many people there or whatever, and it was like such a cool time to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, sorry. I was a very big supporter of Bandai taking away store championship invites, only because there were just like some things I didn't like about them and the way that the system was. I feel like, okay, I don't know, how much do you know about Pokemon's competitive system?
So I am fully aware that Pokemon works on a champion point system and that you need a certain amount of champion points to qualify for Worlds, and you can obtain a certain amount from locals. However, the rest you do have to obtain from regional level events or national events. And starting this tournament season, if you win a regionals, you do get an auto qualifier.
Oh, that's nice. Because I know they didn't have that before. Yeah. But like, I look at the way that the Pokemon company handles like that TCG, and I'm like, I like that. Like, you know, sure, there are things that could be improved upon for sure, but like, there's some reward for going to locals. There's reward for going to regionals and for participating in not just one, but multiple. You know, if you top multiple ones, you'll get points, and it's not just, well, you know, here we are like hoarding the prizing or hoarding the invites, so to say. Another big thing was like, I do think they should have started passing down invites earlier. But you know, so I was wondering how you feel about the local I guess kind of like the bridge from local to bigger competitive scene, and about Bandai taking away those store champ invites.
Right. So first and foremost, we should have had pass downs from the get-go. I definitely do think that. There's really no reason to incentivize gatekeeping per se. I get it, like, oh, you work hard to deserve it or whatever. Like that's cool. Like, I'm happy for you. But also, like, why? Like, dude, just chill. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That being said, as far as incentivizing local scenes and stuff like that, I do agree that we should have some kind of incentive for people to go play locals. Like, I think that totally makes sense. But there has to be like a fine balance, right? Because there's always like okay, if we make locals, like too competitively enticing, then all of the casual players are going to get pushed out, right? By like all the sweats and stuff like that. And then at the end of the day, the lifeblood of any card game, not just like Digimon, but like really any card game, is the casual player base, right? First and foremost, the competitive player base always forms a very small minority of the actual big picture. So if you were to introduce like a CP system like that, you really have to like think about the pros and cons of like how that affects the more casual player base. And while I do think Pokemon's system with the championship points is great and everything, because it sounds really fun, I qualify, earn those points. There are also things that I wish they did adapt that Bandai has done, like the amount of online events we have, right? Pokemon, I think they only had online events during COVID because COVID. But now, if you want, championship points, you have to go out in person. And for, some people, I don't have locals in town, right? I live in the middle of nowhere, or I can't afford to travel to regional because it's like a $400 trip, and plus on top of everything else, right? So then it becomes not feasible to play competitively Pokemon. Whereas with Bandai games, I just need to show up to one regional, get my invite, and one and done, right? So yeah, there's a pros and cons to both sides for sure. Because like for me, I would love to compete in Pokemon, but I work a full-time job. Like I don't have that time. I live as an adult. I don't got that money. Like first and foremost, like I don't got that bag, bro. Like I don't.
Right. I know. Dan wanted to go down to South Carolina, and I'm like, damn, bro. Like I got a plan to like get away from the family. We got to decide if we want to take the 8-hour drive or fly, and we got to look for the place. We got to pay for everything.
At least South Carolina is not that far from us. We're in PA, so like it's not that bad of a trip. So at least if we make it a little something out of it, it would be cool. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Besides just obviously Digimon, but it would have been a cool thing to go.
Planning with life is just like, damn, bro. Like I don't know if I can handle all this.
Long Zero, don't have kids yet. That's the biggest issue.
Give me a couple of years. I'm only 24 right now. All right, give me like another 4. Give me another 4 or 5. All right, we'll see what happens. But yeah, so I think there really is a fine line that you have to like walk when it comes to like incentivizing people to go to locals, and then like how that works for like their casual player base and stuff like that. So I won't give Bandai too much shit for that one, because like I do think that's a very difficult subject to tackle.
Right. Mm-hmm. Makes sense. I will say, I know you're I don't know how good friends you are with Ying, but I know you two,
my boy.
I know you two talk. So I know Ying is like big in the One Piece competitive scene. Mm-hmm. And I just, we're not going to derail on One Piece too long because Dan hates when we talk about One Piece. But like,
I fall asleep because it's boring.
I look at One Piece's competitive scene and I'm like, wow. Or more specifically, I look at their pricing support. Mm-hmm. I'm like, that's great. Like, I like the idea of serialized cards. Or, one thing I said previously was that as a regional topper, if we got more than just, well, obviously, first of all, pricing for the year was shit. Mm-hmm. But if we had gotten a serialized, I don't know, Agumon or Wargreymon or something that said, hey, here's your invite, but like, you topped, so like here's some really good shit. Or even going back to like 2021 when they were giving out like top 32 playmats, and even the pricing for that was like insane. The premier TO events and stuff.
Yeah, those like Wargreymons and Omnimons mattered.
Yeah, this year it just seems like last year a little bit, like you could see it declining last year, and then this year it just felt like it like plummeted. So it's just like, I look at One Piece and I'm like, yeah, I mean, I got to give you some shit, Bandai. But, obviously we recognize that there are two completely different dev teams. There's the Digimon dev team. There's the One Piece dev team.
So, as far as dev teams go, I can't imagine the Digimon dev team had too much of a say in like the prizing support. That seems more like a like a Bandai kind of thing, right?
Okay.
So I wouldn't fault them there. I will say, having competed, the last few years, prizing was not very good this year. I don't think anyone's gonna like try and defend it. Like, I think if you do, you're just coping at that point. One Piece pricing was by far much better, right? It's hands down much better. I think because last year there wasn't top 32 mats. I don't think there was top 16. There's top 16 mats for regionals, and then or was it even that?
I can't remember last year. I think
I don't even know if you got a play mat last. No, there wasn't.
I don't feel like there was.
So the first tournament season, I got the first place mat, right? Because I won like the fucking Bandai regional level event or whatever, and only I got the mat, right? Nobody else got a mat. And the rest of my prizing was like sleeves and a deck box, and I got a couple promo cards. Like it was garbage.
Was it a paper deck box?
No, it was plastic. It was plastic.
It was plastic.
Yeah. We didn't get the paper ones back then.
But then, the season after that, we started getting the stamped cards, right? The stamped cards, like if you win, you get champion, you got playmat, whatever. But prizing wasn't super stellar either back then, to be honest with you. It felt a lot better because we were getting like the alternate arts or whatnot, but it wasn't that great either, to be honest with you. This year, however, I feel like where the change happened is our ultimate cups are supposed to be One Piece's treasure cups, right?
Yes.
That's supposed to be like where the expensive alt arts are supposed to be. But One Piece decided to still give the expensive alt arts for regionals.
Yeah, it's insane.
And I think that's where like my big disconnect is, because like if it's like, okay, treasure cups and ultimate cups are 1-1. Like, I get that. Okay, sure. Because like our serial card, right? Serial, air quotations, is Gallantmon and Gallantmon Crimson mode, right? It doesn't have a serial number, but like it's like somewhere in the same ballpark-ish, if you will.
Yeah.
And then One Piece regionals got actual prizing, and Digimon got stamped cards that say champion. Which, by the way, I still haven't gotten mine, actually, because there was a factory error because I received the first wave of support for the that line of champion cards, right? It was the level 5s. There was a factory error, and I still haven't received my prize support, so still waiting.
That's crazy.
So, I agree. The quality of support has gone down for sure. But I don't think it was ever super stellar to begin with, to be honest with you. Because like the first year we had like the Gaia Forces and Hokkaido's Breaths, and those were great. Yeah. Those were really cool. But then starting the next year, what did we get? We got
Bro, it was like 8mon and Parasaurmon. I was like, what the hell random. Are these vanillas?
It's random shit. Yeah. So like the leap between this year, last year, I mean, it isn't. They both weren't great, to be honest with you. I think people are coping a little bit.
I get the idea of what Bandai was doing for this year's regionals, right? Like, obviously, it was like the protagonist, level Digimon. It's a cool idea. But my issue is every time I think about it, especially for the champion level ones, why did you get the most garbage versions of each one? If you would have given us at least the BT12 versions of each one, I think people would be like, all right, I had no problem playing for these. You know what I'm saying? Like, but they gave the most garbage. Like, no one cares about that Geogreymon since day one. Even day one of that Geogreymon, no one cared about it. That promo Greymon that gives the Sec +1 if you have Agumon underneath it, there was only one deck that mattered in. And that was Agumon, realistically.
It wasn't a Greymon deck.
Yeah. And then you had, the Pyuljamon? It was like, bro, why use that one? Like, it made no sense.
At the bare minimum, the level 6s, they look good because those are all new art, right?
If they would have done that from the beginning, I don't think we would have had a problem at all.
Why didn't we
those
get that from the
good
get-go?
cards.
I don't get it. But
and they're all the BT12 versions too, I believe. And they're all good, like all arts too of it. Besides the Kano Weiss, I think Kano Weiss is the promo version.
No, we got Seriousmon. We got Seriousmon.
Seriousmon, my fault. Yeah.
We got the Seriousmon from RB1.
I forgot that's what it was. Yeah, makes sense. So like that was cool. That's cool. And like I'm excited for my regional runs coming up in October and stuff. Like
but it's just like, why didn't we get this kind of like level of support earlier? I don't get it.
Yeah. So I mean, Open Nationals. I'm glad. I share a lot of the same gripes as you though. Very competitive. So I just wish I still would have competed if the pricing was, but then again, if the pricing was better, I would have competed. If the pricing was bad and it was open nationals, I probably wouldn't have even said, I'd have said, fuck a second round buy or 2-round buy. I'll go there and take my luck because I'm not sitting 8 hours in my home for a 2-round buy, which is, another thing about the IRL regionals and whatnot. But onto our poll. So another thing we talked about, I asked both Dan and Mike and the audience, I said, should every color have access to floodgates? Out of 19 votes, we got 1 who said maybe. I asked them to elaborate, and they didn't elaborate. I had 3 people who said no, and a whopping 15 people who said yes. Dan swayed me, but I'd like to hear what you have to say about every color and floodgates.
Yeah. Personally, I think every color should get floodgates, like of the same variety. I'm kind of annoyed that we still haven't gotten that, to be honest with you, because that, have certain colors having access to certain floodgates kind of determines their viability as a whole, and or it makes other colors not viable for an entire format per se. For example, EX5, our nationals format, purple is probably the best color. I don't think anyone's going to contest you if you say that, because purple in Japan right now is doing very, very well by quite a bit. One of the best floodgates to beat purple is Pomumon, right? Pomumon and his fellow clones, Pillowmon, Gatsumon, etc. So the colors that have access to those cards are doing, they have that advantage, right? So decks like Bloomlord, decks like Black War Greymon, when they have access to these cards, are going to inherently do well into purple. But then, I really want to play blue. I can't play blue because I don't have a Pomu clone, so my deck gets folded into a fucking Rice Krispie treat by Anubismon, So there's, my biggest reasoning, if I have to give one for why every color should have that, is so we can increase the viability of the decks, right? But then, obviously there comes that con where it's do you widen the gap significantly between meta decks and rogue decks and stuff like that? And that in of itself is a whole other discussion, I feel and that really depends on the balancing team to do a good job. But I think as a whole, having more floodgates and specifically floodgates that not like a Yu-Gi-Oh floodgate per se, where it's I can't out it, it's just stuck on the fucking board, but a floodgate where I have to invest a little bit of resource, but it's not impossible to out. I think that's fine, right? I don't have any gripes with that personally.
Yeah, that Dan swayed me on it. Before I was why would I want Bloom to say, hey, I just established my board of 8 Digimon, and now you can't reduce costs, so you can't dex me. Before I was yeah, no, I don't want to see that in the slightest bit. But the arguments arguing for floodgates for other reasons outside of Bloom, because I still don't want Bloom to be able to do that. Definitely, I think it's definitely a great thing that we should, or at least Bandai should look into doing. Because I agree, when I think about good generic yellow rookies, I'm sometimes, you like a Salamon, you like there's not too many good ones right now. I would like to just say, all right, screw it. I'll just throw in my Psychmon and Gazimon equivalent and just call it a day. That's what I do with Ofani Loop. I'm well, it seems like my rookie lineup is decided. I'll just play 4 Psychmon, 4 Gazimon, and whatever else I decide, because that's how I'll roll. And it sucks that not every color is capable of doing that. Although, honestly, screw blue. I'm just gonna say it. Blue, red, y'all can go Dynafire as a yellow, purple player. I'll stay here in my lane and let y'all suffer without your good floodgates.
You're gonna slowly realize throughout this podcast, most likely, Hoang, that Varney has a lot of hate for decks right now. Name a deck he hates it at the moment.
Hey, name a deck. Name a deck. Good. Name one. Jessmon. I don't
Red
hate
Hybrid.
That. I like Jessmon. I do hate Red Hybrid with the intensity.
Anything that's blue flare, Old Forest.
I don't hate Blue Flare, but Blue Flare is just it's on my slight irritation radar. Ulforce, slight irritation. Okay, so my problem with Ulforce, Hoang. Okay. This is my problem with Ulforce.
There's nothing wrong with Ulforce.
Too. It's Ulforce and Beelzemon. floodgates into those matchups mean absolutely nothing. It means something until like they get going, and then it's like, okay, well, you were gonna get going anyways. I'm sorry for trying to cuck you.
Cry me a river, Varney. All right.
No, hold up. To his defense, I actually do think that at least in Beelzemon's case, right? Because All Floors was never nearly as dominant as Beelzemon, right? Because Beelzemon was like borderline 2-0. It was disgusting. Like, geez, whatever. But because you couldn't floodgate Beelzemon effectively, that was one of the biggest reasons why that deck was so powerful. Because you had no way to slow it down, because it would just pop the floodgate like immediately. And you're just like, oh, I'm gonna go, like, okay, GG, go next. Enter scoop phase, like.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just throw a floodgate destroying effect on our level 3 that can activate after you warp, because that's not busted. What are you gonna say, Mike?
So that's actually one of the issues with Anubismon. Is if you try to memory block Anubismon, well, Anubismon resolves the pop prior to all the memory gain. So now the amount of floodgates that you have that can actually limit Anubismon's plays are now between play cost reduction blockers and summon blockers. So the pool is now much more limited. It makes the amount of decks that could potentially contest Anubis much smaller. So that in of itself, unironically, is an issue. So yeah, to his defense.
What were you gonna say, Mike?
Oh, I was gonna say, I feel like it's annoying, but also you should be able to also kind of out a floodgate. It shouldn't stop you from
No, I agree. It shouldn't be built into my level 3.
The only thing I would say, Beelzemon is literally the only deck that was a deck that it didn't matter what your opponent did, because that deck just facilitated itself with its own strategy with the mill and stuff. It didn't matter it didn't matter if you had 5 blockers on your opponent's turn. Oh, word? I'm gonna kill everything, and then I'm just gonna trash all your security, and then I'm gonna unsuspended swing for game anyways. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was like the only deck that ever in the game that was like, it didn't matter what your opponent was playing almost.
So I like I said, I think removing a floodgate, it should have a cost to it. It shouldn't be free, but it also shouldn't be impossible, right? It being impossible kills off certain decks, but at the same
100%.
time, having it way too easy, then you end up with things like Beelzemon, right? You end up with a format that's way too fast. Having, like, for example, going back to Anubismon, this is very relevant because it's our Nationals format, right? If Anubismon wants to kill Pomumon, you have to resort to things like Pummel Whack, or Kinkakumon, or Starter Deck War Garurumon Pop, or even Ruin Mode, right? So the outs exist, but you have to build around these specific outs, right? So I think, like I said, devil's advocate, pros and cons for both sides. And, side tangent on Beelzemon. I ended, if you don't know, Machine Dramon has a very good Beelzemon
Machine Dramon
matchup.
is one of the that was my thing, and
unfortunately
I beat all my Beelzemon matchups during that regionals with Machine Dramon.
It was super easy because I just sit there and I just wait until they deck out. I'm like, okay, you done?
Yep.
Are you done?
Yep.
All right, good talk, man. Good. All right, great.
The amount of troubles I went through trying to out a Machine Dramon stack with Beelzemon made me put 2 7th full cluster in the deck, and it still wasn't enough.
I had people playing 3 to 4 full clusters plus double Bellstar against me, and
oh my god!
And I was like, okay, cool. This won't happen at regionals, so I don't care. Like, good for you, man.
Facts, exactly.
Yeah. All right. So that's our polls. That's our Q&A. Mm-hmm. So next we've got Tamers Battle League Week 15, which is just previously wrapped up this last Friday, the 22nd. By the time you guys are listening to this podcast, it will have passed and the season will be over. But with that in mind, last week we saw Blue Flare win for the 4th time this season, I think. And it's a back-to-back win for our winner, Shady Water. We saw Leppy with his Leo Mon Imperial deck take 2nd place. Ray Ivory with Ancient Red Hybrid in 3rd, and Miranda in 4th with Blue Flare for the 2nd week in a row as well. So Blue Flare Strongs reiterates, Blue Flare players, you are Greymon players. Welcome to the Greymon Card Game. Hope you enjoy it here.
It's amazing how they just they try to deny it, but it's like, yo, you're just a Greymon player. It's okay.
You're a Greymon player.
Blue Greymon, baby.
The rankings. So Leppy has finally jumped Adachi, and he's jumped him by 5 points. So this week will tell who ends up the regular season winner before playoffs. Ray has jumped up into 4th. Shady has cemented himself in the top 8. We saw a lot of other movements. Joe Mojo jumped up into playoff runnings. Miranda as well. And a couple other players solidifying their spots coming up for the play-in tournament. So week 16 will happen this week for us, and we will update you guys on the next podcast. And so by the time that you guys are listening to this, it will be time for the play-in tournament to happen, which will be the 6th of October. So you should tune in on Twitch to find that out, because that's going to be great. It's going to be 16-man Swiss tournament. Top 8 qualify for the single elimination 16-man bracket tournament on the 13th. And the winner gets themselves a Misa deck box, as well as the champion stamped season 1 playmat. So fun times to be had. And it's also looking like season 2 of the Tamers Battle League will be kicking off on December 1st, as voted by you, the community. So during the month of November, we will just be holding regular, let me double check. Yeah, 6/13, 2 weeks off. So yeah, during the month of November, we'll just be holding some regular locals for you guys. No ban list is definitely one of those tournaments, and whatever else. And then we'll start back up on December 1st for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then in the month of January, will be EX5 proxy in preparation for nationals. So fun times all around. Now, with all of that done, it is time to get to the greatest part of this podcast, and that is us interviewing Hoang Zero.
Oh my God.
So the first question, the question that's on everybody's mind for the last 37 minutes, if they've been listening to this and they don't know who Hoang Zero is who are you, Hoang Zero? How did you get into card games?
So my name is Alex, right? But Hoang is my middle name. And originally with card games, I started, doing Pokemon cards when I was like maybe 5 years old. I collected Pokemon cards. I didn't know how to play the game or anything like that. I just liked Pokemon, so I collected them. And my cousin collected Yu-Gi-Oh cards. He didn't know how to play the game, but he collected Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And so that kind of, over the years, I collected a lot of Pokemon cards. And in high school, so my freshman year of high school, maybe it was 8th grade middle school. It was one of those two. But I started playing Cardfight Vanguard, actually, because of the anime, right? So Vanguard was my first, I guess you could say, competitive card game. And I played it at locals in Michigan, actually, Grand Ledge, Michigan. And I was a Royal Paladin player, for those of you that know Vanguard, you happen to know that. I was like, okay, but as a card game player, or just really in general, I don't like to lose. I'm very competitive oriented. So whenever I get into any card game, I always just look up like what's the best deck in the format, or like at least the second best deck in the format, and then I'll just buy it. Like I'll worry about it later, So I played competitive Vanguard for a very long while, actually. But eventually I moved to Houston, Texas, where I met some people and I got into Yu-Gi-Oh! And I played Yu-Gi-Oh! Like on and off-ish prior to that. Because casually with some friends, I wasn't very good at it. But when I moved to Houston on my senior year of high school, I started playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Very competitively. I went from Shadalls to Zodiac to Trickstar.
Oh God. God. I went through all of that.
Yeah. I know. And I didn't do a lot of competitive events for Yu-Gi-Oh! On like a regional level. I think the only thing I did was like I got an invite for nationals one year playing Trickstar, but that was really about it. And then in college, I had all of my Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards stolen, actually. So I couldn't play Yu-Gi-Oh! Anymore because as a college student, I was broke, first and foremost. So I couldn't afford to buy back into Yu-Gi-Oh! So for the remainder of college, I played Cardfight Vanguard because I already had Cardfight Vanguard stuff, and that game was pretty cheap at the time. And throughout my Cardfight Vanguard career, I've gotten a couple top 8s, including a second place. But that's really about it. I haven't done anything other than that for Cardfight Vanguard. And then Digimon came out the Japanese Digimon release came out in the year of 2020, and I heard inklings about it, unironically from Wasi. Wasi was the person that put it on my radar. I didn't know about it until then, and I've been a huge Digimon fan all my life. Ever since I was a child, I arguably liked Digimon more than I did Pokemon, actually. Which, for frame of reference, I'm 24, so I became cognizant of Digimon around Frontiers. Just for frame of reference, if any of you are feeling like old, yeah. But then in 2020, I love Digimon. I saw Digimon Card Game, and I started playing Digimon, like the card game, like almost religiously. Really, this especially took off when I graduated college and I was unemployed. I had too much free time, and I lived at my parents' place, just like any other like college graduate, right? Like I just didn't have anything going for me at the time. I was job hunting, job applying, whatever. But I had too much free time. So what does any freshly graduated college student do? They spend all of their times on their damn computer, and I just play Digimon like way too much, like way too much. And I really got into it around set 2 of the Japanese format, and my first grand accomplishment, I guess if you will, was when, set 2, if you guys don't know, for Japanese format, it was when we got what was it? It was the Ulforce, the Gallantmon, Rust Tyrannomon, that set, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Green was really bad that set. Green was terrible that set. I mean, they like, if you weren't playing Omnimon, you were just a bad deck.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. And Ulforce, kind of.
Ulforce was like okay back then during the Japanese
kinda. That's what I said,
format.
kinda.
Yeah, it was really just if you play red Omni or blue Omni, okay? Those are your two choices. Like you can play purple, and purple was doing pretty well because Piedmon Turbo goes crazy. But really, it was just play Omni or play purple. Those are like your 3 choices. And I liked green a lot because I love my boy Tentomon and I love Palmon. Those are like my 2 favorite Digimon from Adventure 01. So I built a green deck that was basically Tidamon Turbo. And this Tidamon Turbo list is actually a lot of the inspiration that happened with the original English 1.0. The Tidamon Turbo, the entire concept was you were trying to get to level 6 before your opponent did. And I capitalized on this using the fact that green had 1-cost Evos, 2-cost Evos, on 4 and 5 specifically, more so than the other 5 colors. So Tidamon Turbo was created, and I was running Argomon level 6 to like punch. It wasn't a good deck. I thought it was terrible, frankly. But somebody from Japan picked up the deck because we were in the same Discord server, and he was like, "Hey, I just won my locals with this," and I was like, "Oh, that's mine. You jacked that from me." And he goes, "Oh shit." And so like we started talking like back and forth about like how to improve green, and this was like kind of like my first footstep into like the competitive scene of Digimon, where he eventually became, he got a title, right? Because in Japan, somebody wrote a news article within the community, and he was, his name is Desi for the record, my friend who played green, we're still great friends to this day. And he was dubbed the Green King of Kyoto. Okay, because he was the only player playing green, and he was doing very well at events. But so for a hot sec, whenever a person had questions about green, they would come to me. And so eventually, this led me to playing in my first tournament, which I think is, the starting point of everything. My very first tournament, I actually ended up winning it. I played Fast Red Omni, and I played Fast Red Omni with one of Starter Deck War Greymon, the one that gets +1 security attack for every 2 sources you have. That card was total ass, but it worked out super well because I was just kind of crushing it, to be honest with you. I only had 1 loss, and it was unironically to Ulforce, but I made Top Cut. And in Top Cut, I played, I think I played Steven. I might have played Steven in the Top Cut. No, I think that was something else. But regardless, I made it to finals, and I knew my opponent is Tessero, if you guys know Tessero. This is kind of how me and Tessero became really, really great friends. Him and I have, since the start of this all. But he was playing purple. He was notoriously known as the best purple player on the server. And this is like the main Discord server, right? So that the Discord server everyone knows. And so I've never talked to this guy, but I saw that he had his game streamed. They streamed his match, his semifinal match. So I spent the next 3 hours watching his gameplay, watching all of his habits, seeing like the kind of cards he had in his deck. And I just took notes of everything. I was like, if I do this action, he'll do this in response. And like the finals went.
My man's went down the rabbit hole.
The finals went perfectly. Everything went off without a single problem. I calculated perfectly how starter deck Lord Greymon would interact with everything. I knew I could play around the Trump Sword. I knew nothing could ever kill my stack. Like I was so in control of that finals. It was good. It felt really good, and I got my first win. And it wasn't like a big event or anything. It was a very small event, but that little taste, that taste of success is kind of what fueled me to keep going. And then sporadically on and off, I would win, or at least I would either get second place or I would win several other tournaments from there on between the Japanese formats. But my next major success came from a Japanese BT3 event. And this is the origin of the Rookie Rush list that everyone knows from 1.5. I spent I think like maybe 2 weeks with Tessero, and all I would do, and this was what I did for the longest time, is I would go onto Japanese Twitter and I would take every single list that crossed Twitter, and I would just look at it, I would study it, and I had this spreadsheet like this many lists played Gorymon, this many lists played Puppetmon at this ratio, and it was a lot. It was a lot. I had no job. I had way too much free time. Okay, and I would like to emphasize this. I could never do this again. Like as a working adult, I never again. That was way too much effort. But at the time, I had all the time in the world. So I constructed the Rookie Rush list that, at least the skeleton of the Rookie Rush list that everyone in 1.5 knew and feared. And I ended up taking first place in that event. And what, things happen. I win a couple of more events. I get second, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's online events. And then comes English. I didn't play English 1.0 specifically because it was way too hard to get product. I couldn't get shit.
Yeah.
I bought 5 boxes and I opened 0 Omnimons.
Damn. Oh my god.
So
that's terrible.
So I could only play Rookie Rush, and I only got into a single event. I got into one event for 1.0. I made top cut, and nobody told me what time the tournament started. So I slept through top cut.
Oh no!
and that ended my 1.0 like little thing. But in 1.5, I got into the first 1.5 Bandai event, right? And at the time, he didn't mean anything behind it. I think it was more so like an unfortunate coincidence. But my list, my friend was playing my list, right? My friend was playing my list because he was playing my Rookie Rush list, right? The Rookie Rush list that ended up winning that Japanese event I mentioned, right? It all comes together. It's like all one big circle. He was playing the list against True Champion Steven. And True Champion Steven really liked the list. So then True Champion Steven published the list in a video. So the world, all of English, knew about my Rookie Rush list. And I was really hoping to keep it on the down low because I knew it was broken. I knew it was cracked. I didn't need anyone else to know it was cracked. And then Steven leaked it to everyone. And I was like, shit. And him and I, we've talked about it. He was like, it's my bad. Like, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was yours. And I'm like, that's cool, bro. Like, it happens. So I spent a month trying to figure out how I was going to beat my own list, my own creation, right? If you guys have ever watched Wolf Glick, and if you've ever seen his like recent videos, he talks about how like he accidentally gets like super high on like the Pokemon ladder. His team gets leaked, and now he has to beat his own team. That was me. Yeah. That was me. I had to beat my own amalgamation. So I was playing the most like off the wall shit I could think about, right? I was playing Rookie Rush with Imperial Dramon top end. I was playing Rookie Rush with Shaco. Like I was doing everything I could to try my best to like salvage this. And at the end of the day, the solution I came up with was a super heavy intensive security blowout version of Rookie Rush, right? That was what we came up with. Day of the event comes, we're playing, and I face 6 mirrors. I faced 6
oh, it's terrible.
mirrors.
Holy shit.
And the only reason I managed to get through the skin of my teeth, by the way, because Rookie Rush mirrors suck, first and foremost.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's literally just like head-ass aggro, like ooga booga, like you just throw it. The only reason I managed to get through it all was because of the tech choices I made, specifically opting in for more security bombs, knowing I would play the mirror. So I would have way more blowouts than my opponent would. And so with Rookie Rush, you're swinging at security so much. And I had a whole, like, I wrote like a 10-page like essay on this shit, basically. On like how every single matchup for Rookie Rush went, like why certain deck choices went. Like it was a whole thing. It was a whole thing. But it was only because of that I understood the dynamics of the mirror match and like where I needed to swing, what I needed to do, and all this stuff. And we made it. And when I got to the semifinals, so I got paired down. I was the pair down, right? There were 3 undefeateds, 1x1. I got paired down, and I knew if I lost, we could all go home. We would be done. My mentality when I play tournaments is I don't eat when I play. I don't eat lunch. I don't eat breakfast. Because my logic, I know it's terrible. It's very terrible. Is when I will eat when I win. When I win, I will eat. Okay. And so the entire day, I was just like, "You can't eat yet. You have one more round to win. All right, keep going." And eventually, it just got to the point where I was like, "Okay, if I don't eat, I will like die. Like I will die." So I decided to eat, and then I was like, we already made it this far. Let's go the full stretch. And I ended up winning my semifinal round, and I made it to finals. And the entire day, I had avoided Red Omnimon. Red Omnimon is Rookie Rush's worst matchup, by far. It's terrible, because Alter S blows out your entire board. So I was like, okay, as long as you don't play into Red Omni, we're good. Finals match, it's Red Omni. And I was like, fuck, okay, that sucks. And I was playing out of my mind. Like I was working so hard to play around the Alter S. I was like hard slamming Gorilla Mons, like I was slamming Grizzly Mons. I was just doing everything I could not to play into the Alter S. And it came down to a game 3. And it was, I had to guess if he had an Omnimon or if he had an Alter S. And if I guessed incorrectly, if I guessed the 50-50 wrong, I just lost the match on the spot. And so I predicted he has the Alter S. So I played around it. And lo and behold, he had the Alter S. So we won the game. And I was like, yay! We won!
Gambling, baby!
Yeah! That's how you win. That's how you won most of those games back in the day. For Rookie Rush versus Red Omni, it was, does he have a regular Omni? Does he have an Alter S? I hope he doesn't have both.
Which Omni is it? Let's find out.
Yeah, right. So I won the event, and that's really where my career as a Digimon player really took off, because I just, the first place, this is super early on in the game's lifespan. Everyone wants to know how it worked out. And ever since then, I've met some amazing people. I have done a lot of great things that I never would have had the opportunity to do if it weren't for Digimon, and I will be eternally grateful for that. And throughout the rest of my career, I have topped quite a few events. I haven't won anything ever since then, just because, damn, it's hard to win things. But I've gotten multiple top 8s, multiple top 16s, a couple, just a lot of, achievements and whatnot. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the only thing that matters to me, the only thing that's on my mind, is winning nationals right now, in this moment. That is the only thing that matters to me. I want to win nationals. I have spent maybe, when did EX5 come out? Like a month or 2 ago? We started getting reveals like a month or 2 ago.
Yeah.
Ever since EX5 finished the reveal, I've been playing EX5 on almost a daily basis. I've been playing so much EX5. I'm surprised I'm not like deadbeat tired of this format. But like right before you guys reminded me about this, I was literally about to go play more EX5. So
he said the grind don't stop. It's day in, day out.
I feel I didn't prepare adequately enough last year. And I say that, but I literally practiced for 3 months straight. And I don't feel like that was enough. I feel like I slacked off too much. I just wasn't prepared. I didn't practice enough mirrors. So this time around, I'm really giving it my all. I'm doing everything I can in my power to give me that edge and what it takes to be sure that I don't make the same mistakes that I did last year. So that's me.
That is the story of the Hoang Zero.
Which, again, it's a 2-man team, by the way.
Well, there we go. So you're Hoang, where's Zero?
So Zero is a friend of mine from Vanguard, actually, and he's the one who actually motivated me to make the channel. He I don't know if I've ever said this, I definitely said this in public, but probably not often. The only reason we started Digimon content in the first place was because we thought the English community sucked. I would watch English gameplay and I would get really annoyed, honest to God. I was like, wow, this is terrible play. So we made a channel to help teach people how to not suck. And that's the origin.
Literally, that's basically why we started this podcast like 2 year or 2 ago.
Yeah.
That was literally the reason why. Almost.
But
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I don't like to badmouth anything, anybody.
No.
But like, I see some things, and I'm like, you could use some guidance in some way, shape, or form.
For context, though, you have to remember, at the time I made the channel, I was at like my peak. Like there was an argument.
Yeah.
I was like the best player. I don't want to toot my own horn, but
oh no, toot the hell out of it.
No, it makes sense. Yeah,
I was
arguably
go for it,
like
bro.
We'll back you.
I was arguably like one of the, if not the best player in English format at the time, right? Because I was winning events left and right, and not like Bandai events, because Bandai just didn't have events, but like as far as like online events went, and like the Bandai major after getting that first place, like there was like a very solid, argument you can make that we're gonna say one of the best. Okay, I don't want to. We're not gonna toot the horn that hard. So
I mean, you don't get to 17,000 subs without being the best.
17.
However many. I don't know how many you're at. You're at a lot though.
Six. I think almost 7,000 right now.
Oh, is it 7?
Yeah, we're almost 7,000.
Oh, okay.
Right now.
This man Varney just pulling numbers out his ass, bro.
Yo, right.
It's 17. It's 17 if you believe it, right? I mean, 10,000 people just like that out of nowhere.
But yeah, so at the time I was at my peak and I played way too much because again I was unemployed. So I just watching these misplays kind of hurt me internally, and I was like, ooh, we can do better. We can do better as a region. So again, that's how I feel every time we commentate for our tournament. Sometimes I'm just like, no, why did I play? Don't do that. And then they do it, and it's just like,
It do be like that sometimes.
So how did you guys get, like, was it just better shared between the two of you doing the content? Or was it just something that like you were just like, screw it, I don't know anything about this, here, help me out?
That.
Okay.
But to be fair, neither of us knew anything. We just knew that we were both very good players, and that we would be able to at least come up with something decent, right? So he and I worked on like a lot of script writing together. I did all the editing because again, I had too much free time. He was fully employed. So I did all the editing. I still do the editing. But nowadays it's a little bit harder to make videos as consistently just because life got busy. But we still do what we can. And funnily enough, Zero, the other half, he has not actually topped any Digimon events, funnily enough. But he plays more than me, actually, to be honest with you. He's a very good player, actually, very good. He plays more than me. He just doesn't like playing online events. And every time he's tried to do an IRL event, something unfortunate happens. Like last time in Fort Worth, he was going to play, and his tire blew out.
Oh no!
So we couldn't make it to the venue because it was, do I play Digimon or do I go get my car fixed because I have to go home the next day? Probably that one, right? So very unfortunate, and I'm convinced if he had played it, he would have topped. But he has a very historic record in other card games. He's a really great Card Fight Vanguard track record. He did really well in Magic the Gathering, pretty well in Hearthstone. He hit Legend, which depending on where you're at in the card game community, that's like, oh, I hit Legend on like a consistent basis. Like, cool, good for you, bro. I was like hard stuck rank fucking 9. Like,
I'm curious.
Mm-hmm.
God.
I was gonna say I eventually hit legend. For the record, I eventually hit it, but
I'm curious to know. Did you? So like, I started with Card Fight. Obviously Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, blah blah blah. I started with Card Fight. Okay. I got out of Card Fight because I have no luck, and I'm firmly of the belief that Card Fight is like 50% luck, 50% skill. And I got out of it because I just, no matter how good I felt that I played, I just couldn't get past the miracle heals that other people got that I didn't. I couldn't get past, Kagero with their like triple crits. And I'm like, well, I can hit a heal in 3 drive checks, or I'll have enough guard power or something. Just like there was always something. And that's how I got out of Card Fight. Especially when Digimon came around and I started getting into it. I was like, all right, cool. I'm done with Card Fight. Because I loved Card Fight. I do still love Card Fight. I know it's not a game for me personally. So I'm curious to know, like, is it something for you when you got into Digimon? Was it more of a, I like Digimon more than I like Card Fight, or did you get out of Card Fight?
The only reason I got out of Card Fight is I just didn't like the direction the game was going, per se.
Also fair.
With V, I didn't like a lot of the decisions they made in V, and I really didn't like Overdress's design either, especially Overtrigger. But I will say, as far as like RNG factor goes, I definitely will say I was very fortunate enough to meet a group of locals in Houston that was known as like the sweaty locals, like notorious like tournament winners and stuff like that. And they like beat the shit out of, like in Vanguard terms, right? They beat the shit out of me, right? And if it were to luck, right? If it were 50% luck, I would have gotten some games off of them. The reality is, I got my shit kicked in for like 2 months straight. And I was like, how do I get good at this? I'm tired of losing. I hate losing. How do I win? And they taught me. They gave me some coaching. And I got top 8 next event. So I think there's a lot of factors. Like, yes, there's luck, obviously, because triggers in general are just inherently sacky. But there is a skill factor in mitigating the impact of those triggers. And I actually carried over that skill set into Digimon when I was like, because of security, right? Security is a sacky mechanic. But because of my experience with Vanguard, playing around triggers, because you can play around a double crit, you can play around Miracle Heal. There's a lot of ways you can actually play around that stuff. And this is not a Vanguard podcast. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of it. Right. But I think Vanguard was really like, it wasn't 50-50 in terms of luck and skill. I'd say maybe like 75-25 if I'm like pushing it. It's probably less than that, to be honest with you, because if it were truly 50-50, the names that top consistently, they wouldn't top consistently, right?
Right, that makes sense.
Any game where you're having people consistently top is an indicator of like there's enough skill to like offset that luck. And when it came to Digimon with security, I played around security really, really well, I would say, back in the day because of my Vanguard experience. Like, I knew, like, oh, my lose condition is, like, hitting a Gaia Force specifically, so let me play around that. Oh, if I hit Flower Cannon and I lose, let me play around Flower Cannon. Like, it's just stuff like that. And it was, like, knowing... That actually worked out in my favor because I played very unorthodox, I would say, for early Digimon days, where I would swing out on my 4s and I would swing out on my 5s, depending on what matchup I was playing into, because I would be able to calculate... I mean this like in the most literal sense. I was able to calculate the average DP, the average security bombs in every single deck because I looked at every single deck. Every deck that ever graced the internet, I looked at it and I memorized.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you're just like a complete database. It's like, what is that card? What's that egg?
From BT1 all the way to I think BT6 maybe. I had every single card memorized. I had almost every single list in the game. At least the skeleton memorized to a T. So I was able to formulate when I could swing out, when just general game plan strategies, and it worked out really well in my favor. And I think that's what I would attribute to a lot of my early success. So
that makes sense.
Luck is annoying, and hitting a bad security bomb at a terrible time, it sucks. Like it definitely sucks. But if security was enough of a factor to just swing a game like that hard, we wouldn't see consistent names like Ying, like Jackson Huang, like Chungman top as consistently as they do, right? Like Chungman, he took a 1-year break from Digimon because he's a college student, took a 1-year break after winning Worlds, mind you, comes back, immediately gets second at a regional, and then immediately wins an Ultimate Cup right after.
Yeah, it was with the regional was with Bloom, I think, right? Yeah.
He did.
I remember seeing that. I was like, damn, that's crazy.
Yeah, but like that just goes to show that like skill is such a large factor of this game, right? Like yes, it has like some kind of luck element to it. I'm not denying that. But the skill factor is massive.
Right. I mean, okay, 100%. So you can say it for what it is. My experience.
Barney was bad at
Vanguard.
Skill
Get
gap.
better.
Skill
Get
gap.
better.
Exactly. It was straight skill gap. I was a bad Vanguard player. But you know what? I am a half decent Digimon player, and I'll take half decent Digimon player over shitty Vanguard player every day.
That's true, Varney. You're the only person in NA to ever win with Examon.
Yeah,
so
with Examon, yeah.
Like that.
Examon, baby. That's my deck. And unfortunately, I'm currently waiting for some semblance of Examon support.
I mean, you get the Dracomon promo. I think it's BT14 or is it EX5? Oh, it's EX5. You get EX5.
EX5. They got pushed back so far.
They pushed those promos back so fucking far for us.
It makes no sense.
But hey, that's something to look forward to. Dracomon promo.
I will thrive at some point.
And does nothing for Examon at that point.
EX5? Actually, if Leviamon's going to be such a pain in my fucking
Leviamon
asshole,
is really good.
I can fucking, Examon because evade. It just...
Have you played...
guns my pieces.
Have you played or like looked at the BT15 stuff?
Yes.
Like Levi X?
Mm-hmm.
How people were like talking about how it should be like banned immediately. I'm like, bro, let's relax on that.
Levia X?
How crazy is Levia X is? Yeah.
Levia X is...
Levia X and the option.
Okay, Levia X and Seven Thunder, that's the option. They're both very good. They're
I agree.
They're both very good. Banworthy, I don't know about that.
I don't think so either.
Tessero has done some really disgusting stuff. I've seen him. He randomly just OTKs me on turn 2, and I'm just like, oh, okay, that's cool, I guess. That was nifty. That's cool. But
sounds like the Purple King at work, though.
Yeah, right. Tessero's so good at this game, dude. Like I swear to God, that guy doesn't sleep. He just doesn't sleep. All he does is play Digimon. Like I swear. But he's really good at what he does. If you guys have never been in the same call as Tessero, and which we do like public calls all the time, like my server, the Hoang server, right? We play test publicly. If you make a misplay in front of him, he'll start like he'll just what are you doing? Why are you making it? Are you dumb? And I'm like, I'm so I'm sorry. But it's like it's because he's so passionate, like he wants to he wants to see me get better. So I never take it to heart. I'm just like, okay, I'm sorry, like I'll do better. Like,
don't hit me.
But the real card that I'm annoyed at, and I
Apocalypse?
Yes, I am.
So I've heard.
I think Apocalypse is it's very cool. It's conceptually a very cool card. Okay, it's very cool. It was very terribly designed though. It completely invalidates every single slow control deck in the format. You just cannot play slow control anymore. You can't play Venus Lock. You can't play Machine Dramon. You just can't. Anything that takes more than 3 turns to win the game, it's not viable. Because it's way too easy for a Pokemon to just mill you out. It's too easy for a Pokemon to combo on you. You have access to Craniumon. You have access to Belphamon. You have access to Cerberusmon, Werewolf mode bullshit. So a Pokemon can just randomly gain 9 memory on you, and I'm just like, oh, I mean that's great. Oh, you dropped another Pokemon on me because you gained 9 memory. That's really cool, dude. Like, wow.
I think the biggest issue with that is not even just that; it's the Guru X engine that came out.
Yeah, so
EX05.
Guru X is definitely really overtuned. That definitely was a super mistake. I'm
sounds like Greymon X all over again.
So with Greymon X only worked for one deck. Right?
Correct.
Greymon X.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's fair.
Greymon X only worked for one deck. And yes, it pushed that deck like really far to being the best deck in the format. I'm not going to sit here and defend Greymon X. Fuck that card. I don't even know why I'm trying to lead into like, it wasn't that bad. No, it was bad. Fuck Greymon X, dude. I hate that card. But Garu X Garu X is really annoying in the sense that it
should be Lady Devi on a free champion.
It makes everything way too consistent, and it works in almost every single, if not every single purple deck. So now every purple deck is randomly way too more consistent. And so you have a lot of decks like Belfon, for example, where consistency was your biggest weakness. Well, now you have an entire engine dedicated to bumping up your consistency. Why?
Yeah, I didn't even realize exactly what it did. Fucking hell, yeah, that's crazy.
It's really annoying. I'm really mad that Bandai printed Garu X because I think Garu X was really badly designed. I think Gabu X is really badly designed, frankly.
Can I ask why? I'm curious.
Yeah. Both or Gabu, specific one?
Gabu.
Both.
Okay.
Well, both, but for me, Gabu.
So Garu X makes it so it increases the consistency of decks way too much, especially in a color like purple or blue, where your combo pieces are such an integral part of your game plan that you're justifying purple to run so many one-ups, and they'll find the one-ups now. Right, not only that, but it makes it almost impossible to actually choke Garu out, because Cool Boy plus Garu X means that you will guaranteed go to 3, and then you can go War Garu, swing out however many times, Proto Form into War Garu X, swing out another time. That's 3 swings, or no, you swing out War Garu twice, Proto Form, War Garu X for 0, restand, Melga Ace for 0, Melga Ace swing, Melga Ace restand, swing, Melga Ace, and you just keep going, right? That's 4 attacks, right? And if you opened War Garu promo, well, now you're just extra cooked, right?
Oh yeah, you're busted.
So the issue with Garu X, in my opinion, is that it gives the fact that it gives memory is gross. Okay, it makes it impossible to choke out. It bumps up the consistency of decks way too much. Battle protection, why? That was super unnecessary. I don't get it. Like, we already gave,
especially it self-facilitates its own protection by, all right, cool, I'll trash 2.
Yeah.
I'll bomb deck 2, so I'm never going to deck out because I'm going to keep drawing. Like, that's just so crazy to me.
Yeah. I don't get why they made it so you can never memory choke Garu X. I don't get it.
It's the same thing with Alphamon. Literally Dan just talked about this last week. He's like, I hate Alphamon because if you put them to 1, but they've got just a couple things set up, whether it's Cool Boy and a Darugamon and Raising. Well, that's it. There's an Alphamon. There's an Oryukin that can possibly pop up because of all the shenanigans they're capable of doing.
But at least with Alphamon, they aren't OTKing you. Or they're not they're not
There's a difference.
They're not beating you down outright, right? Melga is
right.
You're getting sent to 0. Like, you're either getting put to 0 security or you're dead.
Right.
Either or. And I'm just like, oh, okay, that's great. Fuck me, I guess. And with Gabu X, my issue with Gabu X is, again, it bumps up the it's just better Gabu X. Like, Gabu X is just a better Gabu X.
For sure.
Yeah, it's insane.
Add 2 cards with Garuru, that's
with Garu
fucking wild.
or a card with X antibody.
X antibody, generic, so it doesn't matter.
Like, for example, we're playing Beelzemon X. You can play Beelzemon X because you can swing out the War Garu, and then after you get them to like however much security, swing X antibody, evo Beelzemon X, burn the last of their security game. Gabu X searches Beelz, right? And I'm just like, we didn't need this. Like,
wow,
that shouldn't even be a thing.
Like, why are we giving this? Like, why are we giving this deck so much consistency? Because one of the issues with like Garu is like, okay, yes, it draws a lot, it's very consistent. But if it doesn't have the pieces, like if it doesn't have the promo, then you're kind of pressed for damage. You're pressed for all this stuff, right? Now you're like, oh, I can find my promo, no problem. Or I can
find my one.
I can find my X antibody. I can find my Omni X. Yeah. Like, I don't get why we made it so damn consistent.
I was just saying, I was like, if they were gonna print these cards, they should have banned promo, no shot, because now you're one of, like, Saki one of, sure, but now it's like, okay, cool. Well,
I mean,
consistently, you're gonna see that shit almost.
To be fair, I'm of the camp that every card should have been put to 0. I hate the fact that we have 1-ups and at all in this game. Because
especially coming from Vanguard, where there's so much more like flexibility and restrictions.
So Battle Spirits got their ban list today, and Battle Spirits had 4 cards put to 0.
Yeah.
Why?
What blows my mind in Digimon is like we put these cards to 1, and these cards are like the cards that get put to 1 are blowout cards.
Yeah.
Or just you have a deck like Yeah, well, you have decks like Bloom who can play 3 1-ofs now, and if they see any of their 1-ofs, it's like a blowout.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
like stuff like that. It's crazy.
I don't get why they've left these cards up, because they're so impactful, and like I would rather these cards have been at 4 than 1-of, to be honest with you, because at least at 4-of, I know they're gonna have it. Like I know, I know
you're not banking on the 1-of.
Like when I lose to HPD, if it was a 4-of, I'm like okay, whatever. He had the HPD. Like good for you. All right, but when I lose to the 1-of HPD, I'm like, he really drew the 1-of HPD. Like, are you serious?
There's some cards I think it's okay at 1. Like I think Ice Wall is a fine card to be at 1. If the cost HPD should be at 0,
if the
you know
cost
what I'm saying?
was
like,
every card being at 0, I would gladly take it in a heartbeat.
Oh, I don't disagree with you saying, but I like some cards are okay at 1. You know what I'm saying?
Nah,
like, I think Ice Wall is one of those options.
I hate
All my homies hate Ice Wall.
Oh shit!
The amount of times I've lost a game to Ice Wall randomly sacking me, nah, dude, I'm good.
Nah, it's a valid point. Valid point.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely rather have no Ice Wall than Ice Wall at 4.
Yeah,
because the triple Ice Wall pass turn was something that happened to me, and I wanted to punch my computer screen because I was playing online.
Just in general, I really don't get why we don't put cards to 0, but every other Bandai game does, and that's on the dev team, I feel, which I have a whole gripe with the dev team, but because I was singing their praises for a while. Like I was like, wow, they're doing a really great job, and then they printed a couple problematic cards, and I'm kind of just looking at them, just like, why? Where?
Well, okay.
Especially when like BT14
was like a switch. So they originally came on to the team in RB1 during the RB1 era for Japan. But card games, generally speaking, they have their sets designed months out already. So realistically speaking, RB1, EX4, and BT13 had already been designed by the previous team. Maybe the new team had like some kind of influence with it, but like I strongly doubt they had complete control over it, right? And if you think about it in a bubble, BT13 was actually very balanced. The only reason BT13 is kind of an issue is because of BT12 Marcus. If you take away the fact that Shine Greymon sometimes randomly high rolls you on turn like 2 or 3, BT13 as a whole is actually very balanced. If you look at the results, the only deck that's actually a problem is Shine Greymon. Mirage Galgamon's not an issue yet, at least without training boost. And I would say Shine Greymon isn't an issue yet outside of the high roll until we get the training boost, which I think training boosts were also a mistake. I think training boosts were really poorly designed. Because why do training boosts refund the full 2 cost? Like it should have been reduced cost by 1. It should have been a from master to disciple clone, right? Like I don't understand why we made it so efficient. And it just doesn't make sense to me. So now we're giving decks like Mirage and decks like Shine the ability to dig for their tamers, while simultaneously there's 0 downside to it, like with Memory Boost, where it's like you pay 3, but you get back 2. Like, okay, that's fair.
Right.
Training Boost, training, okay, reduced by 2. Oh, look, I just don't get why we did that design. So with BT13, like I said, I think BT13 was very balanced outside of Shine Greymon. BT14, you get Fenluga, and that's an issue because Fenrir is literally just a BT9 deck. If you've ever played Fenrir, you come to realize that it's a deck that will just randomly OTK you on turn 2, turn 3, and there's just nothing you can do about it because Fenrir swings for 3 times for 6 damage and like
2 checks plus whatever.
Right, and you could say like, oh, if you just don't give them a body on board to pop, then they don't get the 3rd restand. Well, they're still swinging for 4 damage. And then if they have Black Godomon plus Chimeramon, you're still dead because that's still 6 damage. So it's just why did you guys print a BT9 deck? I don't understand. Like what was the point of that? And then after BT9, you have EX5, and they printed Garu X, and I'm just like, why the fuck did we print Garu X? Like I don't get it. Garu X just seems like a really badly designed card. Like it's very powerful, it's very cool, but it's so overtuned, man. Like I don't get it. And then you have cards like Anubismon, and Anubismon is really overtuned because Anubismon works way too well with Mervamon, which honestly I blame more so on Mervamon than I do Anubismon because Mervamon itself is just a really badly designed card. It's just 8. Mervamon is what? It's fundamentally 7 cost 3 bodies.
Yeah.
With Anubismon, it's,
Right.
like, it's 1 cost, 4 bodies. And I'm just like, oh, like why did we do this?
Especially in purple.
Yeah, right.
Because of what purple's able to facilitate
yeah, exactly.
on its own.
And
It's
so,
the same issue with Fenrir, because Fenrir, when you do the whole combo, it's 4 bodies
You spit out
altogether,
3,
which is like
spit out
crazy.
4, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
One
3
body
it's
for
4
the
in
level
total.
5,
Fenrir plus
and then
3.
3
Yeah.
for freaking having AG in your source. Yeah,
Right, and
it's stupid.
So I'm convinced that the new developers just really like dogs. Purple, like they just really like dogs.
You know what? I didn't even.
You
You
make
might-
that
might
connection,
be onto something
but-
here, dude. I don't know.
But and then come BT15, we get a Pokemon, and like I said earlier, I think a Pokemon is really badly designed because it just invalidates so many decks in the game. Like you just can't. You can never play a slow control deck. You have to play a fast aggro deck. Excuse me. You have to play a fast aggro deck that beats a Pokemon to the ground. Otherwise, you're losing the game. There's just very little counterplay to a Pokemon other than just killing him outright. The one weakness that keeps a Pokemon from being BDIF probably, because it loses to Anubismon, is its consistency. Because sometimes you just draw like terrible. You just draw like horrendously. Because you're playing a deck with like 16 level 6s or some shit like that, you know? So fundamentally, at the end of the day, you're playing a bricky deck, but like if you see all your pieces, you just auto win the game into 1/3 of like the decks in the game. I dislike that design. Like either it needed to reduce the cost by much less. Like why does it reduce by 4 per Dark Master? Like that's so much.
The fact that he's 3 cost drop is so crazy.
It's so gross. It either needed to restrict what it can copy, reduce how much it actually goes in terms of cost reduction. It needed to mill less. Like it just needed to do. It's just overtuned. It's just way too overtuned. I don't know. I really dislike it. And I want to like these new developers because they've printed a lot of really fun stuff. They printed a lot of really cool stuff. It's like a nice change of pace in comparison to the previous sets. Like bird support's really fun. The plant stuff is really cool. Fish is doing fantastic things. I love playing fish. So you print all these really cool things, and then you print these like random like what happened here, dude?
These like top ends are like super top ends. That's the problem. Like these top tier decks might be way too top tier for everything else.
Like I just don't get like how did we not learn our lesson from before, right? And you have people that are like, I quit Digimon because I didn't like the way it was handled. I'm gonna go play One Piece. And I'm like, bro, that's another Bandai game. Like you just went from one Bandai game to another Bandai game. Like,
and you went from
one
problem
to
shit, another fucking problem.
Like
because Zoro.
Like I'm not, like One Piece is a very fun game. One Piece is very fun, but One Piece has its own fair share of issues. Like the fact that Red is way too good in that game. You know, like that's this weekend, Knoxville, right? PPG. Zoro won the event, and if you look at the bracket, only a single new leader out of set 4 made top 32, being Queen. Everything else was either Katakuri, Law, Whitebeard, Zoro, or
fucking nerfed Whitebeard at that.
Yeah, nerf Whitebeard, and there was one Croc. But everything else is just old. It's just Red, or Kata or Croc.
Yes.
And I just
I read a post on Twitter. Eggman posted somebody made some comment on his video about like kind of criticizing his breakdowns, and I'm like, well, first of all, you're wrong, but he made a second comment that was like, arguably, Red was not the best color during OPO1. Sure. Okay, let's just say.
You can make an argument Green was. Sure.
Exactly. Oh, they were like, OPO2? Maybe. I was like, OPO2 is what made me quit the fucking game.
Yeah, no,
like,
OPO2 was...
That was the fucking height of why I just said fuck One Piece, because Zoro and Whitebeard were just both equally oppressive. And then OPO3, sure, it got a little bit better. OPO4 is much better, especially with the ban list. But I'm like, you look at the decisions Bandai games as a whole make. Battle Spirits, the cards that were restricted. Netherworld's Depths. I looked at that back when it came out. I was like, yeah, I'm playing this at 4 of in every purple deck.
That card was cracky.
I hated playing. Anytime I saw white, I was like, fuck. If they play Axe Spider, I'm fucked. And lo and behold, every time I played against white, yes. Because Axe Spider is fucking stupid. And those are 2 cards that are now banned. Good job, Bandai. But like, I don't know, bro. The decisions that they make sometimes when it comes to their card games are just like wild to me. I've spoken very highly and also very poorly about Bandai I felt like they were going, like, I remember when BT14 reveals were coming out, and I was like, wow, like, these cards are great. They're not, wow, overpowered, but they're also not like, wow, like, they're shit. But then I look at Fenry, and I'm like, yeah, that's fucking stupid. Yeah. Like, there's just no getting around that particular deck.
Right.
And then we get into...
Eagles 5, and it's just, they just said,
it's like,
balls to the wall for that one.
Here we go again.
And the cool thing about EX5, it's probably the best,
it's the best
EX set we've had.
No, 100%.
Easily.
Yeah.
And then it's like, then you look at the Guru line, and it's like, oh my God, why is this a thing? You know, like, it's just so crazy.
I mean, overall, yeah, like EX, like you said, EX5 is probably the best EX set. Not even probably.
For sure.
It is the best EX5 set, EX set we've had.
There's nothing that compares to it, where like the whole, like, from top to bottom, that is like, there's a lot of viability and a lot of competitiveness that came out of this set already. That's at least seen in Japan.
Yeah, I mean, red and blue suck, but you know, purple's doing pretty good. Purple's good. Yellow's doing pretty decent. Yellow's doing pretty good. Black's doing good. Green's doing good. Like, okay, cool. Red and blue got stuck with the unfortunate
the Grace Nova.
Yeah, Grace Nova. Whoops.
Grace Nova, the secret that should have been an SR.
Teehee. Yeah.
That's such a weird deck, because they like, their megas are so good, and then the Grace Nova is like, like, if you play that deck, your whole point is to get to the 6s, and you don't even care about the 7. And Grace Nova feels like,
yes, it's awkward for sure.
Yeah, I mean, even Russ Morrow put out that video with the Grace Nova deck on Showcase, and of course, you know, it's a showcase and everything, but like, you didn't need Grace Nova to win that match at all. It was literally, all right, well, self-D Digivolve Diana so I can get the unsuspend, and then I'll go into Apollomon, swing for game, because I have Sec +1, so I get past Odin's breath. Like, it's so good. Like, I love Apollo and Diana. I detest Grace, because it's just like, there should have been more payoff. Especially considering that, like, you know, I don't know. There's so many gripes I have with that. But something you said earlier in pod, you said BT4 was arguably the best format for you. So comparing BT4 to where we're at now, like, what makes you draw that comparison?
Definitely, I would say the pace of the game feels a lot better back then. It felt a lot more back and forth for the most part into a lot of things, because the game just wasn't as fast back then. Now you have things like training boosts, accelerating the game like a significant amount. You have BT9 style effects like Fenrir, right? You have Melga beating down your doorstep. You have, even if you haven't played into it, Kentoro's spawn is super fast too, and that's not a good deck. I mean, it's like tier 2, but I digress. But just in general, it's really just the pace of the game that I really am not as big of a fan of as it was back then, because back then it felt like a very fair pace. Like, you could slam a 5 and like you could still win the game, you know?
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Nowadays, if you slam a 5, you're probably getting fisted. So
yeah.
Oh, for sure.
I think back
Unless
then, like, what I appreciated about
Davos,
like what I appreciated about BT4, BT5 formats like that is like memory gauges actually mattered then. And then you get into like BT14 and you have a deck like Fenrir, which just completely throws out the entire concept of the fucking memory gauge to begin with. You're just like, okay, nothing matters. Nothing is sacred anymore. God damn it.
Well, like, Fenrir would be fine if it didn't spit out 4 fucking bodies to facilitate its own game plan. Like, Hoang, one of my biggest gripes has always been unsuspending comboed with Sec +1.
Right.
I felt like that's always been the bane of this fucking card game.
Always dogs.
And they fit.
It's always dogs.
And it's always dogs and a fucking bug.
And
dogs and a bug. And Jessmon, yes. So, like, when they got rid of all the BT9 decks, I was like, cool, we're doing good. And I was like, you know, Alliance is a mechanic that could be abused, but it seems fair. But then you put Alliance in a native purple deck that spits out its own bodies. It's like, okay, well, they can't swing, but that doesn't matter because I'm just gonna use them to get Sec +1 and unsuspend anyways. And then you have me sitting here like, yes, Bandai did not learn from their mistakes.
Yeah, if you think about it, for what they were probably aiming for, they probably accomplished their goal.
Yeah, exactly.
They wanted, they wanted to push Seekers. They needed to print a good deck for Seekers. They did it.
110%.
They accomplished their goal. They don't care about you. You are a small fraction of their player base. Okay.
Oh, for sure. The funniest part, I didn't even think about it until you said before, the Chimeramon play, right? You just, alliance to shit. Who cares to spend? All right, I'm gonna DNA to a Chimeramon and then just, GG at that moment.
Like if you think about it from a casual player perspective, bypassing the whole memory gauge is really cool. It's a very cool concept.
I like it.
Casual players eat that shit up, They don't care about playing 8-round tournament, getting OTK'd in round 7. They don't give a shit. They're just like the player base that Bandai wants to appeal to is the player base that every once in a while they go to a locals, they'll pick up a Digimon deck for cheap and they'll play it and they'll have fun. That's all they care about.
Bandai does really good at that.
It's not bad on their part.
It's one thing I'll give them.
It's not a bad strategy at all. It works. They make money off of it, right?
It sucks for us.
As competitive players, yes, it sucks. I think that part of the strategy also ties into why so many cards are cheap in Bandai games. Is because Bandai makes their stuff on purpose so cheap.
Yes.
So that way you can go from one Bandai game to another Bandai game. So if, for example, I'm not enjoying Digimon, let me go just play One Piece. I can pick up a One Piece deck for $50. I'm not enjoying One Piece, let me go play Battle Spirits for $50. I don't like Battle Spirits, cool. Digimon for $50, right? But Bandai's entire strategy is they want you to play all their games, and they want you to just have fun. Which, as a competitive player, I want to strangle them for it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with that 110%. The last thing I want to touch on, I never really thought about the training boost in that way, but I was watching East do an interview. He was on a podcast with DMV Drake's doing an interview, and one thing he said was they asked him what card he wanted, banned or limited. He also said the training boost. So you saying that just reinforces it. I never really thought about I've always thought about the training boost as, oh my goodness, this makes my shit decks really fucking not so shit. They're just, if they're shit here, they're just a little bit less shit here. But then obviously the ceiling for good decks go from
but those top tier decks go
good
even higher.
To, wow, I'm busted, like Mirage, for example.
Right. So I mean, you're really just widening the disparity between meta decks and rogue decks. Because the rogue deck is playable now, right? But now the meta deck is just an entire.
It's gonna blow its ass out of the
water. An entire head above, right? And I just wish they weren't so overtuned. I wish they didn't refund the entire cost. Like I said, if it was designed from master to disciple, I wouldn't have an issue with it because you pay 2, you get back 1. Okay, that's fair.
Right.
Instead, we got you pay 2, you get back 2. Well, okay, why wouldn't I just play 3 to 4 copies of this? This is just fundamentally a better memory boost, right? So
I mean, even in decks that are multicolor, I've definitely seen Greymon decks say, haha, I play red and black pieces, so I'll play 4 of each memory boost because I have all the search power in the world, and I'll get all this cost.
I don't know about that one. I think those ones those are a little bit sketchier, but yeah.
I do agree.
No, but then you pop up the problem with the in-training boost. You pop up with a deck with the promo OTK Black Hole Greymon deck. That's where that's when in training becomes a little crazy because you already have mem boost and stuff and anything else. You got gravity crushes and then the blinding ray, and now you have the in train that just reduces your Digivolutions on your Greymons to free basically, and everything's just gonna feel free. And then you're just gonna get smacked with a Chimeramon, promo Black Hole Greymon, and then GG even faster than it is currently now. I think that's when we're gonna see that deck pop way more consistently. Again, don't be surprised if I run that deck, because I already ran it. So,
yeah, I can agree. I mean, the bane of, Mike said it perfectly. Things that ignore the memory gauge is why the fuck did you print that? So, the idea that, well, I'll pay 2 memory now so that I can get a 2 cost reduction later. You're totally fine with just dropping 2 to 3 training boosts.
Right.
So that you can refund yourself later on. At least with memory boost, there's that inherent drawback. Even though you did plus a card to hand most times, you still paid 1 more than what you're getting back. So I can definitely see, I mean, they're very polarizing cards.
So
I know from the moment that they came out, I was like, yeah, this is a 3 to 4 for me.
I understand that Bandai has to speed up their game, and because like you have to sell cards, right? Yeah, you need to make the next set strong, otherwise people aren't going to buy the product. I understand that from a business perspective, but I just don't think training boosts are the way to go about that. Like I said, I think if they were designed to give back 1 and then pay 2, like I think it would have been fine. I just don't like the pace of the game as far as we're pushing, because Anubis Mon is like, you're getting on a 4-body board, potentially threatening an OTK like turn 2, turn 3. A Pokemon's milling you out turn like 3, turn 4. Like the game's a little too fast. I don't think it's impossible to fix. I think like, for example, Ace cards, with Blast Evolution, I think that's a really great step into fixing that issue by giving you interaction on your opponent's turn and everything like that. But right now, as we stand, game's a little too fast. Hopefully BT16 changes something up, but as far as, Nats goes, our meta's really fast, so
yeah,
we'll be done in a couple hours
if you
think about it.
Yeah,
hey, we won't have draws, hopefully, because that's what used to F me up for everything.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, but, we always got them players. I'm interested to see, like, how our, I guess the last thing I'll prod your mind for.
I was gonna ask, what do you think is they're gonna hit in the next ban list, like to maybe prevent stuff like to get crazy?
Realistically speaking, they won't hit Luga because Luga will have just come out in English. I really doubt they'll hit Luga. They should hit Luga. For disclaimer, they should hit Luga because I do think Luga is a very problematic design. They should hit Soul Luga specifically because that's like the enabler for all this bullshit.
Yep. Agreed.
The level 5, right? Like, I heard the grade. I heard that slip. But Luga won't get hit. It should, but they won't. Shine probably will get hit only because Shine saw enough results in English. It did well enough in Japan. It still does well enough in Japan, especially with training boosts. And I think once we get Shine with training boosts, it'll become way too much of an issue. I know in Latin America, Shine Greymon is almost like tier 0. Like it's a head above everything else. So Shine Greymon probably receives a hit either Marcus. I don't know which one they'll hit, but like probably BT12 if I had to take a guess. I think you could argue hitting BT13 because BT13 allows them to, it gives them like additional removal on top of everything like that because of minus 3000. It gives them some extra memory to work with because like you can evolve into Rise Greymon, play out BT13 Marcus, tap, gain a memory, and like you keep extending your plays. So either Marcus works in like hitting Shine. And so the question that I wonder is like, do they hit Mirage? Because Mirage is a bit of a problem in BT14, but I think one of the things that will keep Mirage from being too much of a problem is unironically Luga, because Luga like bends Mirage over, like it's a really bad matchup for Mirage because they OTK you a little too fast. They OTK you faster than you OTK them, so Luga is a really rough matchup in my opinion for Mirage. Not only that, but you have other decks that can like kind of keep you in check, like Bloom, for example. Bloom gets a lot of support, and I feel like Bloom, and at least in my own experience, does pretty well into Mirage. Just because you have things like the Quartzmon, for example, that can really wall them out. You just expand board so quickly, you put on pressure, etc. So I wouldn't be surprised if Mirage dodged a hit, but they might preemptively hit Mirage anyway, just because of Shine. If Shine gets hit, then like what's next on the list? Oh, Mirage. Well, we can hit Mirage, and then Luga might become tier 0. But if you want to beat Luga, you just play like super hardcore Black War Greymon dedicated builds, and like we'll worry about that when it comes later. That's not my problem.
The one last thing I wanted to prod your mind for, as a player who's played obviously both JP and like you play everything basically. What do you think the differences are between the two formats? Like, I see a lot of JP players complain that like, oh, the English player base thinks that they're also different, and that decks won't come over there and dominate. And then English players are also subsequently like, oh, well, how do you guys know this deck's going to come over here and dominate? So like, having playing both formats, like where do you see, what's the biggest difference between us and them, so to say?
So historically speaking, back in BT5, Japanese Lord Nightmon was like almost a tier 0 menace. It was everywhere. Like it was winning every single event, and it was just way too good. Come English, Lord Nightmon had by far the worst conversion rate in the entire BT5 format. Lord Nightmon didn't even have the most victories either. Lord Nightmon tied with Green and Black, actually, which is something that Japan had not seen. Because, for example, Grand Kuwagamon OTK, which is something that I had a hand in popularizing in America, if you remember that video, it actually originated from Hong Kong. Hong Kong was the original source of the Grand Kuwagamon OTK. And Japan had not adapted that for that format, and then come English BT5, well, Grand Kuwagamon OTK claps the fuck out of Lord Nightmon. So that's something we had going for us. Then you all had Black coming from Defeat Turbo, as well as the Black Toolbox using Blastmon, right? From Alex Mendoza, who saw results with that. So that alone is like something that's drastically different that from Japan. Come the later formats in BT7, for example, Cherubimon is something that did not exist in Japan. That is something that came from me and my friend group, right? We came up with yellow-based Purple Cherubi. That didn't exist in Japan, and that significantly warped the meta because that was a deck that beat the shit out of Yellow Hybrid. It did pretty well in the Blue Hybrid. Like, it was just a really good deck in general. We made Cherubimon a top 3 deck. Didn't exist in Japan.
I told you, Varney.
You never played it against me, so fuck you, buddy.
Bro, what are you talking about? Remember when we had that conversation when I mentioned that and during that format? And you were like, no, that ain't shit, blah, blah, blah.
I remember the conversation. I'm just saying you never played it against me, so it never happened against me.
That's because you didn't exist in our locals during that time.
I can't speak to that.
Right, but and the only reason that innovation came to be in the first place is because we saw that it wasn't working in Japan, and we wanted to cope a little bit, and we coped so well that happened, right? Also, Christmas Hybrid is another thing that blew up in English that didn't blow up in Japan, right? So there are a lot of innovations. Security Control is another great example. Security Control wasn't as huge in Japan in the earlier formats as it was in English. Our Security Control blew up in 1.5, which is Japan's equivalent of BT3, but Security Control didn't blow up in Japan until BT6. And we had Security Control as a relevant meta threat from 1.5 all the way to like even BT9, BT10, BT11.
I mean, it's still,
right? Like,
you still see it around.
Yeah. But like the point is, I think the biggest difference between our format and Japanese format is that Japan lays out the groundwork for us. We just take it and like keep running with it. You know, like we spend more time on the format than they did because we're playing catch up, right? But for players that play both formats, you're spending double the amount of time in those formats than the Japanese players are, right? And I think that's partially why we've come up with like some crazy ass adaptations that never saw success in Japan. And it's also a bit of a playstyle difference, I would say. Like if you ever played other card games, Japan has they like to play what's good. If a top player doesn't say X deck is good, it's likely to go under the radar. Here in English, we'll smoke the crack pipe and we'll play whatever the fuck we want. Hexablau won an Oceania. Hexablau won an Oceania regionals back in PT5.
Yeah.
Shoutmon won a regionals in PT5. You know, that's something that didn't exist in Japan. That's also partially because Japan doesn't have as many large-scale events as we do. We have so many events compared to Japan. Japan, you have a fucking lottery system to get into an event, you know? And I don't know why One Piece gets all these big events and Digimon doesn't. Again, doesn't make sense to me. Whatever. I'm not here to talk about that. But I feel like there's a lot of like outside factors that are the major reason why we're seeing these differences in innovation. Japan is not entirely wrong. We're like, yeah, like, okay, Lord Nightmon's the best deck. We'll play Lord Nightmon. Cross Art's the best deck. We'll play Cross Art, right? They're not wrong in that. Their best deck is usually going to be our best deck for the most part. But the adaptations do come from just wanting to hit the crack pipe a little too hard, and we're just in the format for twice as long. That's
another deck too is Millet Loop is another one of those. I think that was more of a us thing than them.
So that's actually JP. That actually is
really.
So Tessero is the one that popularized Millith Loop in English.
Yeah, that's one reason I knew about it.
He got it from Japan. Millith
okay.
Loop is actually played primarily by Misao, who sounds familiar. He was third place Worlds.
Okay.
That's why.
Third or second place. It was one of the two. I don't remember exactly which one. But he went very far in Worlds. Misao is a very, very good player. And he was the one that popularized Lilith Loop. He was winning events in Japan with Millith Loop, right? And so Tessero adopted that for the English format. So that is something that we got from there.
All right. Well, that makes sense.
My mistake.
More sense now. I mean, yeah. I look at Tessero and I'm like, yeah. Do I have a purple idea? Did Tessero come up with it? No? Okay, then it's probably not that good. All right, but we are at an hour 44, so we are going to wrap this up today. Hoang, any parting words for the audience?
Yeah, like I said, my name is Hoang Zero. If you aren't already subscribed to my channel, be sure to check it out. I do a lot of competitive content. I'm hopefully trying to do some more videos, more of the fun variety videos, just because I feel like Digimon content in general is a little bit dry right now. So I want to bring something to the community that you can watch on the off season. Because like when it comes to competitive videos, you know, it's always at the start of the format you care about the competitive videos, and like as the format drags on, you don't care about topping deck lists or stuff like that anymore. You just want to play what's fun. So hopefully that shift in direction will be entertaining for viewers. But other than that, thank you all so much for having me on. I really do appreciate it, and yeah, thank you.
No, thank you for coming and talking to us today. I mean, you know, like I said, you're the person who started my Digi journey, so it's an honor to have you here and interview you today.
I'm so sorry for Sierra Mist. I'm so sorry.
Sierra Mist, that's my deck, baby. That's my deck.
It works for him at local, so I'll put it like that.
I'll always remember that deck as my one and only Puppet Mom for days.
I love
OG Quartz Mom.
I love Puppet.
Yep. But that being said, that is it for today's episode of DigiPod, the digital podcast. Like Hoang said, if you haven't checked out his channel, if you don't know who he is for some strange reason, his link will be right in the description. You guys should definitely check him out and follow him because he is one of the best, and I will tell you that every time. And until we talk to you guys the next time, peace out.
Catch y'all on the next one.